Okay, thank you. All right.
Why is this?
Is that? I'm sorry.
Switch the camera.
Looking.
There you go.
All right. Let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Cleveland,
Present.
Councilman Saxonhammer,
Here.
Councilman Jackson,
Here.
Councilman Evans,
Here.
Councilman Nelson,
Present.
Councilman Hahn. Absent. Oh, I'm sorry, he's on Zoom. Councilwoman Rosso,
Here.
Councilwoman Campbell. Here. You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item of business, presentation by Ben White from Missouri Main Street Connection. Before he starts, we've got a lot on the agenda tonight, so we have to set up some kind of timeline as far as what time we're going to commit for each of these items. So first item number one, this presentation, we're going to have 15-minute presentation, 15-minute question and answer. Any discussion following that, I'd like to take to the regular meeting in June. So do we have Mr. White with us?
Yes, I am here.
Oh. Well, sir, I will give you the floor.
All right, I will share my screen. I just have a short presentation. All right, can you guys see my screen?
No.
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 Oh, we might have to spin this. I can fix that. Then we can see you and your screen, I think.
No, it's just not up.
Oh, it's not up? Okay. We'll fix it. We're working on it.
There it is.
There we go. It's up now.
Good.
So yeah, can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so tonight I'll be talking to you all about the Main Street movement. So I'll do that in 4 different parts here. So I'll just introduce myself and then I'll give a rundown of what the Main Street approach is. I'll dive a little bit into our premier service grant that we have for communities. And then, like I said, I'll open it up for any questions. I know you guys provided some questions beforehand, and hopefully I'll be able to answer some questions during the presentation, but if you have additional questions afterwards, please feel free to ask me. So my name is Ben White. I'm the Senior Program Specialist for Missouri Main Street Connection. So I've been in this position for about 3.5 years now. Previously, I was the Main Street Director and on staff for the Main Street program in Chillicothe, Missouri, which is in Northwest Missouri, about an hour east of St. Joseph, Missouri. And so I've been doing Main Street for about 10 years now. And so my education is I actually got my bachelor's in historic preservation from Southeast Missouri State in Cape Girardeau. I graduated in 2014. And then when I was working in Chillicothe, I got my master's in public administration with a community planning certificate from the University of Illinois, Springfield. So now I'm going to dive into what this Main Street movement is. First, Main Street is an organization. So there's a lot of support for this type of programming here. First, you have the National Main Street Center, which is a nationwide program here. So you have the National Main Street Center, which was formed officially in 1980. And it became that program because building owners in 1977 actually reached out to the National Trust for Historic Preservation because they had all of these businesses leaving their historic cores in small towns, mid-sized towns, and large towns. And so they did a 3-year study, and out of that study came the Main Street movement, which I'll dive a little bit more into what that means here in a second. Then you have what's called a coordinating program. That's who I work for at Missouri Main Street Connection. And so it is our job, our responsibility to give resources to programs all across the state of Missouri. And so there are local programs all across the state that are following this Main Street methodology. And so it is our job to provide resources to each one of those communities in any which way that they're looking for. It's a methodology, and so it's really focused on economic development, focused on the older traditional district in a community. So mostly we focus on the commercial districts of historic cores of communities, but everything that Main Street does is focused on economic development, whether that's the events that we hold about bringing people in the downtown, whether it's supporting the existing businesses or trying to recruit businesses in, whether it's trying to bring partners to the table. Everything that we do in Main Street is focused on economic development of these older traditional districts in communities. It's a network that connects communities, whether it's through the trainings that we hold across the state or through some of the virtual ways, through social media, or just people visiting other communities to get ideas. Other coordinating programs, so we take a lot of ideas and resources from other coordinating programs like ourselves, and then other downtown professionals as well. It's a brand, so it is a registered trademark and seen as the premier downtown revitalization program. But this last one's probably my favorite one. This is, it's an advocacy effort. So it's this return to community self-reliance. It's this realization that no one is going to come in on a white horse and save your community, especially me. It's, it's not my job as an employee of the coordinating program to come in, tell you what to do, and then drive back up to Chillicothe. It's my job to help get you where you guys want to go. What do you want to do as it pertains to this Main Street movement, and how can I be of a resource to you, as opposed to just coming in, giving you forcing a plane down the road and going on my merry way there. So I mentioned the National Main Street Center really got its roots in 1977 and was formally established in 1980. But what I want to focus on with this one is that it originally actually started out in only 6 states and 30 communities across the United States. But because it has been worked and the Main Street methodology has worked through that time, it is now in over 40 different states. And there's actually a movement to bring Main Street to larger communities as well. So the Main Street methodology can work in small towns. The smallest town that I work in right now is 785 people, all the way up to larger districts as well. We actually just started work a couple of years ago in 3 St. Louis districts. And so we are actually in Dutchtown, Cleves Landing, and Delmar right now, teaching this same Main Street methodology. It looks different. The implementation looks different in each one of these, but the methodology is true in how we are going about implementing it. So again, our mission is to provide communities with the knowledge and the tools to economically and physically revitalize their downtown. We actually started in 1989 as a state-funded agency, and so we were actually under the Department of Economic Development until our funding got pulled in 2003. A lot of agencies were getting cut at that time, and so we actually ventured out in 2006, formed our own not-for-profit organization, just like all of our Main Street programs across the state of Missouri. So this is a map just showing where we are in the state of Missouri. So those ones with stars are Main Street programs all across the state of Missouri, and we have about 45 of those. And what's important is they're just all over the map. One of the premier ones that's been a Main Street program for about 30 years is, your next door neighbor in Washington. They actually won a national award for how great their Main Street program is there. And so all of those ones with circles, and you have a lot of those in the St. Louis area, are all those that have reached out to us either for support or they've come to our trainings, they've attended a webinar, they're interested in what this Main Street methodology movement is in one way or another. They may not just have a program in their community. So these are our economic statistics dating all the way back to 2006. And so as a requirement of the program agreement that we have in communities, they have to submit to us on a quarterly basis the economic data statistics that they can then turn around and use in their own community to show economic growth as well. And so what we do is we actually compile all of those numbers. And so we've compiled all those numbers from 2006 through 2022. You can see that graphic in the bottom is 2022 stats. And so since we started taking statistics, we've been able to report about $1.3 billion in public and private investment just in these Main Street districts. So that's just in the downtown area here, with about 1,200 net new businesses during that time as well. And so one of the best stories I'd like to tell with that is Chillicothe, where I'm from, where I used to work. They started out with a 25% vacancy all the way back when they started their program back in 2001. And then when I left in 2019, they were able to report that they had a 3% vacancy rate, because what they did is they just followed this Main Street methodology to a T. So these are the national numbers, obviously way more staggering than our Missouri numbers here, and they've been taking statistics since 1980. But then it goes to show that, since they started in 1980, if you work this Main Street methodology to its fruition here, you will see the economic growth that comes from that. This is a quote from economist Donovan Ripkema, who studies the effects of historic preservation in Main Street. And so what he has found through his studies is that there's simply no more cost-effective economic development program of any type on any scale anywhere in the country than Main Street. And so how do we do that? Well, Main Street, they follow what we call this 4-point approach. That study that they did all the way back in 1977 over that 3-year period found that the communities that were employing these 4 Main Street methodology approaches here really saw economic growth in their downtown area. And so the first one is organization. This is really that bedrock point of Main Street, because it's all about building consensus, bringing the right people to the table to revitalize the downtown area, bringing partners to the table, raising funds for the various projects and initiatives that the downtown, that the community is wanting there. Then you have design, which is all about those aesthetics essentially. And so that's working with property owners to enhance the downtown's physical appearance, whether it's the buildings, whether it's the public spaces, adding beautification efforts like flowers, benches, trash cans, all of those kinds of efforts to beautify the downtown area. Then you have economic vitality, which is first and foremost about supporting the existing businesses that have already put a lot of time and effort into starting their business, but then also being strategic about recruiting those businesses that the community needs and that would fit into the vacant spaces that you have in the downtown. But then also working with property owners to make those buildings able to be rented for businesses that want to start. Then you have promotion, which is all about positioning the downtown as the center of activity. Main Street organizations will routinely do that with events because that will bring people into the district itself. But then it's also just about promoting the downtown as this great place to be. And so you can do that through promotion campaigns, advertising campaigns, all about promoting that positive image of the downtown area. So before I open it up to questions here, I wanted to talk about our premier service grant that we at Missouri Main Street have for communities, and that is the Community Empowerment Grant. And so the Community Empowerment Grant is a grant for technical assistance and training. It's a grant for services in the community through a competitive selection process. And so it is a 60-40 cost share program here. And so the value of the entire grant over this 2-year period of the Community Empowerment Grant is $30,800 in services, where 60% of that is actually contributed by us at Missouri Main Street Connection. So that's the services, that's the trainings that we provide through this community empowerment grant program here. But it's also the time, the effort, the travel, all of those things that I do on the backside to provide resources to a community is paid through that 60% cost share portion of the community empowerment grant here. Then 40% of it is contributed in cash. So that equates to $12,320 by the participating city. So here is the grant service timeline, if this is something of interest to you guys. And so really that first year is all about community input. And so at the very first part of this community empowerment grant, we get out there and we hold a town hall. We talk about what the Main Street movement is, what it can mean for the community, and get their input for that as well. What do they want to see for the downtown area? So it's not just, a few people trying to make the decisions for the downtown area. It really truly is about the community and what they want to see for the downtown area. And so what we do after that is we pair it with some market demographic information to start to recommend strategies for the community as well. Again, using that base of the town hall, we do a follow-up survey as well for more community input. And so what we do is we identify, these overarching strategies for us to focus on, and then we really get down in that second year on development of those ideas. And so we take that 4 points, ideas using Missouri communities as examples of how they have been able to develop their ideas based off of who they are as a community. And we figure out some strategies that could be potentially used in the community, in the downtown area to develop who you guys are as a community there. And then the last one is a specialized technical service. And so depending on what you guys need, for instance, if you're interested in a particular event, maybe we bring in a director that has done an event like that, or you have some building owners that are interested in some building renderings. We can certainly provide that as well. This is extremely dependent on you as a community. And so while the community empowerment grant, we follow this service timeline here, what it looks like in each community is completely different. Here's some other things that we also provide along with all of those services that I just mentioned. We have an organizational action plan, which is a 2-year action plan of everything that we're going to be doing over the entirety of the community application or community empowerment grant itself. We are available by phone, by email, by text message, as you guys are developing the program in your community. Different training and resources. Like I said, our job as at Missouri Main Street is to give you guys the resources to be successful, and we'll absolutely do that. You actually get a discount at all of our networking opportunities, our workshops, all of our different things that we hold throughout the year. Our next one is actually going to be in St. Louis. We have our state conference coming up July 26th through the 28th, which I would implore you guys to go to that. That'll be at the downtown Hilton Ballpark hotel there. It's going to be a really, really good conference. And so if you're interested in learning more about what Main Street is and learn about it from professionals all across the nation, this is truly the conference to go to get that knowledge base there. So here's all the different rounds. We're actually in the middle of the second round right now. And so you can see it's over a couple of months timeline here. And so if this is something that is of interest to you guys, either in the third round or each year, these rounds essentially are the same. The timeline is the same. And I will send this presentation to you guys as well. So you have all these materials here. But if this is something of interest to you, this is something I can absolutely, help you guys with if you're interested in applying for this grant for services. I went a little bit over, but what questions do you guys have?
You mentioned you provide resources, and I'm assuming you're talking about the 60% of the community empowerment grant. Are there other resources that you provide, and where do those resources come from?
Yeah, so I'll preface it by saying to be involved with Missouri Main Street, you don't necessarily have to do the community empowerment grant. You can just be a member with us, an investor with us, and that opens you up to our entire resource library, as well as, hey, if you're looking for resources on starting an event, or you're still on how to quantify or qualify some different statistics, that's something that we absolutely would provide. If you're an investor with us, we will absolutely help you along the way there. We have an entire library full of resources that we have on our website here, from Missouri communities, from outside Missouri communities, studies. And so really anything that you're looking for as it pertains to Main Street, what I just mentioned, kind of that Main Street methodology, we have the resources for it, or can provide those for you.
Okay. And when you say an investor with us, I assume you're talking about membership, and that gives us access to materials that you've already compiled that have been successful. So can you just explain a little bit more about membership? So if someone just wanted to be a member and get a taste of Main Street, what would that involve?
I'd say actually, I think that would be what I would recommend, especially to start off with, is to become a member. It actually gets you a discount at all of our trainings and workshops as well. I mentioned that as one of the perks of the community empowerment grant. Becoming a member and investor also gets you a discount at all of our workshops and conferences that we hold as well. And so with that, it opens you up to what we call our Main Street resource library. And so those 4 points that I mentioned, we have resources under each one of those 4 points. Hey, you're thinking about adding some benches in your downtown area. Okay, great. We have either resources in our resource library, or we actually have in-house a consultant and a contractor and vendor list that we keep, that we actually recommend for you guys for communities here. And so if we don't have it in our Main Street Resource Library, we probably have it somewhere as well. And so with that, we actually have a historic preservation committee as well that will help answer questions on any historic preservation related questions, whether it's from building owners or whether it's from the community as well. And so again, this kind of long story short, our Main Street Resource Library is sectioned off in each one of the 4 points, and there's resources under each one of those 4 points there.
And membership fees, are they based on our operating budget, our population? How do you determine or is it a flat fee for anybody that wants to be involved?
It's based off of population, and if you have any staff as a Main Street program. And so you guys would actually be one of the lowest. So what I will do is I'll actually put you in contact. She's on vacation right now, but I will put you in contact with our membership coordinator, and so she can get you information about that as well.
Anybody else? Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yep. To be able to break it down for you and tell you the best ways to pay if you guys are interested in that resource, which is absolutely, I think, what I would recommend to you guys to start off with, is to, like you said, get a taste of Main Street and who we're about.
Could you go back to the slide with the 4 points listed?
Yeah. That one.
It had volunteer management, tech services, strategy, implementation.
Is it showing up for you guys? It should have at the top, it should say comprehensive focus. Hold on. Okay, hold on. I'll stop share and I'll re-share it again. I think it's kind of freaking out a little bit. Okay.
It's
Loading. All right, there we go.
it's further back.
It's strategy, implementation, volunteer management, tech services.
It was the one that had it was stacked
It's
up.
still not showing up. All right, hold on.
It's okay.
They say it's showing up on my end, but it's not showing up on your end here. Let me.
There you go.
Yeah, go down. No, go down.
What's the fourth one? Someone,
It was further towards the end.
no worries, just.
Well, if you could.
There.
There. it is.
There.
Okay.
Oh, the first one is 4-point in strategy development. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So this slide is truly in the second year of the grant. The community empowerment grant is a 2-year grant. And so this slide denotes what we focus on in that second year. And so we take all of those 4 points that I talked about, and we talk about how do we actually implement using that 4-point approach throughout there.
Anybody else?
So did we discuss the cost of the membership?
Well, we're gonna get information on that. That's gonna be forwarded.
Because we're small.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's about population.
So, Mr. White, thank you for your time.
Yes, absolutely.
We're gonna have another conversation regarding this and be back with you.
All right. Sounds good. Appreciate you guys' time.
Appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
All right.
Okay.
I already have it.
Oh, okay.
I stole yours and put 2 of them over here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next item, discussion of a marketing strategy for our upcoming election for the consolidation of the Normandy and Village of Glen Echo Park. I'm hoping to accomplish tonight consensus on a message, a timeline, an action plan and a timeline, assign tasks, and then we're gonna have to meet again in a June workshop for final implementation on who's gonna do what and how we're gonna go about this. So I think first, what do we hope to accomplish tonight? I think we need to be well on our way as to what message we're going to promote and be consistent or not be consistent. Maybe the message to Glen Echo Park and the sales points to the park are gonna be different from the sales points that we need to make to the city of Normandy. I don't, quite frankly, expect a lot of resistance from the city of Normandy.
Yeah, same.
I don't know where any resistance would come from this. So,
I don't think resistance, but getting out to the vote.
yeah, and that's true. And get out the vote could be the challenge, but it's by vote cast, Andy, not by any previous population of vote that we have to, what's the
It is,
threshold here?
let me look up the exact language for you.
So while he's looking that up, my understanding is that it has to pass a vote of the entire community mixed, is my understanding. We may find out
I
different.
thought it was a majority.
No, it's
Simple
I
majority.
have those.
separate majority of votes cast in each municipality.
Okay, so you have to pass it and we have to pass it.
Correct.
Okay.
Makes sense.
And it's a simple majority of votes cast.
Simple
So
majority of votes cast,
if,
correct.
if we get 100 people out on this August ballot, which is, we have to have 50 and one of them say yes.
Right, it's not a majority of like the population.
Right, that's what yeah.
Yeah.
A simple majority of votes cast. Thank you.
Total vote count.
I think that's important to get a list of registered voters in each municipality. I think it's important, especially important for us, because we need to make sure that that list is current, and then we make a determination whether we want to do a door-to-door strategy or mail strategy or both. It's my understanding that the messaging has to be informational, so you're not supposed to be trying to influence the vote one way or the other. It's strictly information, which is very much like the presentation that Sam did for the mixed meeting. So the same kind of talking points that existed in that presentation, I think would be a good basis, a good foundation for what we need to say. I think that, what I'd like to see is something that addresses the why of what we're doing here. And I think, Sam, you had some information as to why we're doing this. So we need to look at revenues, we need to look at messages like there's powers in numbers. At least that's from my perspective for the village. We need to message to our folks why the best way to preserve the village and its history and our neighborhoods. And the neighborhood needs to be broader than just our 2 streets. We need to think of that as how we can have strength. From the Normandy perspective, you need, you're a little less than what's your last?
4,200.
4,200, so you're down 600 from the last census.
Yes.
Thereabout. We are down from 170 to 122. So obviously, the revenue impact of that, if we're looking at taxes per capita, means a little bit more for us. And then the comparative ability to address issues. And when it comes to money, and I'm always thinking about that, there'd be a little bump in your CDBG funds, but the same kind of restrictions that you have in Ward 4, because we'd be essentially in Ward 4 and we've got the same kind of restrictions. But that would add a little bit more money to the pot. Whereas you have capital improvement funds, we don't have any of those, so that you could do some of that work, but take that money to do it in other wards. So I think it's the strategy has to be getting people out to some meetings between now and then, getting the information into their hands, getting out a sample ballot, because that'll be the only thing that we have, and then addressing, are we going to do a direct mail piece? If so, how many pieces? You're a lot bigger, it's going to be a lot more expensive for you than for us. But I think Sam really did have a good start of what we need to say. We need to have some images of both communities, I think, if we're going to do one piece. And I don't see any reason for us not to do just one piece of information, because everybody needs to know the same things. So I think we need to know the why, the when, and the how. So the when is going to be effective, what we need to do to get ready, and the how, particularly for us, is again associated with money, and that is doing as much as we can to repair whatever we've got broken in the village before the merger happens. So if that's street repair, if that's derelict cars, if that's housing issues and getting people to court, we're going to be working, I'm going to be working as hard as I can to come as whole as we can be. There's still going to be some issues, we know that. But we've got some stuff to do on our end, but we don't have a whole lot of time. So I think what we have to do is I don't mind walking door to door.
I think door to door is the answer.
Yeah, county.
Yeah.
County.
Walking door to door, having representatives of both communities as much as possible. I got 5 people on my board, might get 1 or 2 to help. And you've got whoever you've got. So then there's the old word of mouth, who in the neighborhood has the influence and talks the most.
Yeah.
So,
Find that one person, that's 10.
well, we had one who was, she's a little sour, but she's in support of it, and she wasn't in the past. I think anybody who has previously served on your board with whom you have a good relationship, we can help them too, because they've been elected at some point. So what we don't want, at least from my perspective, there are people who own homes and/or live in my community, my neighborhood, my village, who would actively oppose this because they don't want the oversight that can come with a more structured government and better enforcement of ordinances. They want to be renegades, they want to not obey anything, and so as much as we can get that cleaned up before the merger, we're going to work on that. So I think we just need to be clear about our numbers, how it will benefit everyone. I don't think that there are a whole lot of negatives to this.
Well, I was gonna ask that question of you. Do we need to put more effort in selling Glen Echo is that the challenge? I see Normandy as a pretty easy sell. Anybody correct me if they have a different opinion on that.
No.
We do have to do the work.
Right.
We have to do the work. But I don't see, I haven't heard a negative or a downside or any reason not to from anybody.
Yeah, the only folks who I know have voiced anything are people who like the idea of living on a quaint little village that has 2 streets and is exclusive. But we are far past the days when Glen Echo was a restricted community with covenants that didn't allow people who looked like me to live there. But those, and I don't think we got any of those, maybe one.
Maybe one.
Who still lives there, but no, not really. I think there is a legacy there that people want to protect. They want to be identified as Glen Echo.
Well, I will tell you, Sam had an idea about that we were talking about this afternoon. If you want to share, Sam, your thoughts about the advantages of the structure that we've got in place already.
Yeah, well, first I'll just say I think Chairman Valle's right on track with, we just need to be upfront with all the facts. And I think the facts prove the point as far as, yes, there will be a tax increase for Glen Echo, but you'll have a better funded municipality and you'll get better services in return. And the tax increase isn't really that much, and so we need to really break it down. Yes, the rate will go up this much, but this is the expected dollar amount,
Yeah, I think we just had, my house was just reassessed, and over the last 2 years, it's gone up by close to 30%. So people are already antsy about taxes. We have an aging community. We've got several people who are in their 80s who own their homes. And so money is tight for them. But what we can sell to them is things like Normandy has a historic preservation ordinance.
And that's where I was about to go, what I think Mayor Beckman was leading into. We do have a historic preservation committee, and I think we're going to get them started on the Glen Echo process. And I was doing a little bit of research, and I still need to talk to Andy, but it's my understanding that our preservation commission will need to start doing, a research, basically a study of Glen Echo, and then they'll come up with recommendations on exactly what the district and any restrictions that come with the district as far as demolition or new buildings would look like. And then get that sorted out, and so we can tell people in Glen Echo, you're gonna enter in as a historic preservation district, and this is what that's gonna look like exactly.
Right. The other challenge that we have, and I don't know how much of a problem it has been with you all, is we have some of the people, the same people who have fought us on occupancy permits are now introducing the idea of Airbnb or short-term rentals. And they're the same people. I know they're the same people. Houses change hands, one LLC to another, but we can write an ordinance that is really, 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 really restrictive. The other thing that we can say is it can't be in a historical home. Mm-hmm. Any home that has been designated, like my house is on, the whole village is on the registry, but there are some houses that are contributory and some that aren't. mostly the houses, my house is built in 1950. So I think the houses built in the 30s, 1900s, all of those would be on the registry. And that document exists. I have it. I think you've got a copy of it somewhere around here too. So how we write those ordinances and, whether we get all of that stuff done in advance or not, but at least we need to have that conversation with people, that this is a way to protect what we've got and to become a part of a larger municipality with a better infrastructure than we have. Because that's the biggest problem that any little two-street village with 122 people is going to have, is making sure that all the regulations are followed on time when you got nobody to work on. So.
Vicki, I've known you for quite some time. I really appreciate and respect what you've done for your community. And I think it's a great idea. Out of 122 residents, how many are actually voters?
In our last election, which was a municipal election, we got 24 ballots cast.
24 ballots cast. So therefore.
And I know who they are.
Yeah, you know who they are. So 180 that you had, I guess.
122.
No, but you said
Oh,
one time.
170.
One time you had 170. So are those parcels that they have, are they owned by the same people or rented or?
We have 60, I believe 66 or 67 parcels, about 64 houses. Some of them are on 2 parcels.
Two parcels, okay.
Well, one of them at least is, at least 1 or 2. There are about 5 vacant houses right now. Maybe, I gotta count. We own one of them, we plan to sell before the merger. And that one is on the historic registry. The problem that we have is that we've gotten court cases which will carry over to that's on that property regardless of the name of the municipality. Is that right, or we have to do those again?
Anything in the Glen Echo Park Municipal Court?
We did it, a couple of years ago, or maybe as many as 3 on two houses. We had findings, we got judgments so that we had the ability to abate, but we didn't have the money to abate. And in order to tear anything down, we have to go to the State Historic Preservation Office and get them to approve it, which means that we've got to spend money for engineering studies and such.
Was this an injunction or something that was obtained in the circuit court, or was this an administrative hearing?
Lawsuit in the circuit court.
Okay, I'm not sure if that would transfer or not. I think anything in the municipal court will have to be dismissed, because that, Glen Echo Park code will cease to exist.
Well, our court is the 21st Circuit. We don't
Okay.
have a Glen Echo court. I
Right,
mean, we have Glen Echo court, but it's in the,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Have Ed send me a copy of that judgment that you're talking about.
Yeah, we
I'll
got
talk with Ed
2,
about it.
right, okay. We'll have to figure out, and those are homes that are obviously uninhabitable. And, we'll have to work on the legalities of some of that stuff. So our big problems are derelict, or improper housing code issues for the most part. We got some parking issues. They're not bad because of the same people who have we got 2 houses that are occupied that do not have occupancy permits. No, I think it might be down. I know we got 1 to comply, 1 moved out, so I think we only got 1, but it's a big one.
So can we start firing off some bullet points that
Yeah.
we want to compile into
Can I
a?
have one other thing?
Sure.
So therefore, we said there's 22 voters that we know. of.
24.
24.
Who voted in the last election.
Right. So there's another 90-some people that, if they decided that they didn't want this to happen, that they may come out and vote. So we have to understand. So we have
That
to
includes
understand.
children, other people who don't vote. So that was people who responded to the census. I really don't know. I think the highest number of voters that we've had in any municipal election in the last 4 or 5 years was around 30.
30.
And that was when somebody was running against me.
So we as a board, I want this to happen, I'm sure the board does too, so we have to make sure that we put some time for.
You have to concentrate on the votes and then
And,
show
push
up
that.
at the last.
Well, maybe not let them, let them not show up.
Yeah, I
Because
Yeah,
the ones who are more
Yeah.
conscientious are the ones who vote.
yeah,
The
Right,
ones who don't vote,
yeah.
you know.
yeah, I'd say target your
But-
known voters.
But see, here's the thing, if we're gonna go door to door, we're gonna have to talk to them anyway, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
But it's not just Glen Echo Park, it's all the wards we need
Yeah.
to reach out to.
Oh, it's 4
Well, I think,
wards.
but I think, normally it's like, shooting it.
I think it is too. But we still, we can't take it for granted. We have to still.
Right.
For granted.
So let's just shout them out as you think of them. One was shared financial resources. How do we word professional, city staff?
Full-time professional staff.
There was 102 registered voters in the last election in Glen Echo, and 24 of them voted.
Do you have the names of the registered voters?
We can get
I-
them.
That's something that we'd probably have to reach out. This is just from the.
Because I know at least 2 who no longer live there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because we don't want them to start campaigning and not, because I mean, they're registered to vote, and they decided.
If you don't vote, you're not gonna go out and spend money and time to campaign against them.
Right, it's also an August election.
Right.
Yeah, so I mean-
People that you need to worry about.
It could be very, very slim as
If
far
they're not
as the.
civic minded now, they're not
So
gonna be
that's
civic
24
minded
probably would do it.
in August.
Yeah, and those are, I mean, I got one vote in the
Can't take
last
any
election, I wasn't even on the ballot, so. But, yeah, and, I've got email addresses for about 30 people, I've got telephone numbers for some. I can send out email blasts to people. And those are, the people I've got on my list are voters, those are people who care. Now, I got some other emails and but I want to make sure that this doesn't look like a campaign. I've got to be very, very careful about not looking like a campaign to pass this. I'm pretty sure I could get at least 1 or 2 people who are not on the board to talk it up among themselves.
So when you say you don't want it to look like a campaign, look
I-
like a campaign coming from you, but
Well-
if others take over,
No, I have to be careful. I think any elected official has to be careful. We want to be informational in our approach and not trying to give a certain perspective on how the vote should, we know what we want. But what we have to build is a campaign that looks like you'd be a fool not to want this.
Yeah, and I think, I completely agree with what you're saying, and to get back to the things that I think we need to share is the services that will be offered, the
Right.
increased resources, and then just be very upfront about the taxes as well.
And the taxes will increase, but I think what we want to do with that is if we look at, and I think it would be important for us to take we can black out my address and let people look at what little money actually goes to the municipality.
Right.
That the taxes
That's a good
that
idea.
are being assessed that's going to pay for fire, schools, all kinds of stuff.
That's a good point.
But little money goes to the municipality, so teach them how to read their property tax bill.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we're putting together a flyer that's gonna be informational, and then we put in simple facts like
Right,
shared financial resources, and it'll provide a full-time professional staff to both cities. That's still informational, but obviously,
yeah.
information.
I think,
But I think the taxes, and when she's saying, teach them how to read their taxes.
Well, the taxes could
Something on
be,
that flyer.
tax impact, and we could have a before and after.
Yeah.
And just make it simple.
And
Yeah,
what
you-
really
you
goes
can't
to
just
the
put the rate on
municipality
there.
versus all the other services.
Yeah,
For them to have a perspective that Normandy is not getting all of this. Right?
yeah, well, I'm not sure, I don't know if they care if they're getting it, just what's coming out of their pocket, right?
Yeah.
There's a word
But it
that,
would be coming out of their pocket anyway, because all the taxes are.
right, and I think that's what they're concerned about, is what's coming out of my pocket when this is over. There's a word that's been gone back and forth, one is consolidation, which is what this is. And the
I
difference,
think the difference that, because I got your message.
yeah,
Consolidation or merger are fine, and we've been using the language of merger. What we don't want to call it is an annexation, because that's
Right,
a completely
right.
different thing.
Well, and what I'm getting at is, even the boundary commission used the word merger, which was incorrect, but it's a word people understand. It's a
Yeah.
simple word and they know what it means, where consolidation is a little more confusing. Just for the
Yeah.
purpose of marketing, I think we should use the word merger, whether it's legally accurate or not.
Because that's how they.
Well, so I think,
Right,
I think merger is fine because, you know, Vicky's correct, we don't want to call it an annexation because that is a legally separate action taken by a municipality. So there's annexations, there's consolidations, there's no such thing as a merger under Missouri law, but colloquially, it is closer to
Okay.
what a consolidation is, so if you wanted to call it a merger.
I just think it's more
for clarity,
understandable
I
to
know
call it
you
Yeah, I
don't
think
think
so.
that.
People know what that
They
means.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Consolidation could be like a takeover.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, yeah.
I think that one of the things that we also need to stress in our messaging is that we are doing this by choice. That we are doing this because it's the best thing for both communities. It's in our best interest to do this. That each of the municipalities will be a bit stronger. We don't want to use better together because that's a whole nother can of worms.
I thought
But
about that too, that sound.
Yeah.
Taking power away from certain
we
areas.
can say stronger. I don't even know the word, but together needs to be thrown in there because people are gonna react to that. But we'll be stronger as a consolidated community than we could be separate, you know?
Stronger is.
Strength in numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the strength in numbers issue. And I think the languaging, quite frankly, if we're real careful about how we do this, it's gonna be a conversation for most of North County at some point.
Well, too, and I think as far as informational, we can't call it marketing now because we're gonna get away from that word. An informational brochure needs to be tight, compact, readable, understandable, something somebody's gonna read. If we put together a fine print, full page, it's gonna get used to clean up the cat litter. That's, yeah, so some bold print, simple message,
Clean design,
Yeah.
white,
Clean design.
some white space.
Yeah.
I did that for 40 some odd years because I sold higher education.
oh, okay.
So all those brochures that the kids used to get, we would design those things. So bullet points are good. Big print because our people are old. Couple of nice pictures, not necessarily of people, but of neighbor, I mean, people working in their yards, that kind of stuff. But not like smiling faces of elected officials necessarily.
So if we come to the June workshop with an almost complete brochure put together, so somebody's gonna have to get together a group of 3 or 4 people and design something. And there's no reason it can't be printed by mid-July,
Yeah,
and then we'll make assignments and assign wards and streets and hopefully, between now and then, well, maybe it's too early. Maybe between June and when we meet in July to pass out materials, we need to recruit volunteers. And
Yeah.
everybody's gonna have, hey, you got this street, I got this street. Okay, so we're not all, and somebody mentioned a voter list, rather, so that we're not wasting time knocking on doors and talking to people that aren't gonna come to the poll anyway. A voters list.
yeah, the voters list, and you can get that from the Board of Election Commissioners for about $25.
Okay.
So we need one for Glen Echo, one for Normandy. Can we get one, Sam, that shows their voting, how often they voted?
Yes,
I'm not,
yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And you can do past history for the same price.
Yeah.
Like the last three
Last 3
elections.
Okay,
kind of
that's
thing.
perfect.
Yeah.
Tells you
which people are voting and which
what
ones.
election they voted in.
Yeah, well, we've got a national coming up too, so,
yeah.
but this August one, I think that people, we need to be honest and fair and make sure that everybody gets the information. But we really want to have conversations with those folks who vote. And I know pretty much everybody, around, so,
Well, and you're gonna have to tell us who we should be talking to and who we shouldn't be talking to. And would they resent Normandy walking into Glen Echo trying to sell this, or is it better off?
well, yeah, we gotta be there. If I've got, 2 blocks, so if somebody
Okay.
wants to walk with me and, I'm walking better now and I can, and it's summer, so yeah, I'm not gonna fall on the ice or anything. So, yeah, I think that, we wanna sit and talk a little bit with people. We wanna be able to hand them something when we go. Even if we mail something, we need to hand them something. We need to put it on both websites. So, yeah, I think a team approach. I think that somebody from Normandy, maybe one of the 4th Ward or 2 of the 4th Ward people can come because they'll need to know those faces. Because they'll be in the 4th Ward. With a ward map, as it, like the
That's a
consolidated
grand
ward
idea,
map.
yeah. Here's who we will be,
Yeah, consolidated ward map. And an overall ward map. I think you've got those already somewhere.
they're on the wall right there, actually.
Yeah. I
You can
think-
get them from the county
Yeah.
register. or-
Yeah, but the one that's the combined, we've got one that shows the combined, it's not so hard to adjust the 4th Ward. We just take that little finger out of your side, and stick us in there. So, yeah.
I've got a big one, including Glen Echo, because I was foreseeing,
Okay,
but it's big and it's it's in my house anyway.
how big is it?
It's big, but they come in smaller sizes.
Well,
So
we can have it scanned and then put in a
you
PDF.
could do that,
and produce it.
yeah, because it's already
Well-
paid for, you don't have to,
Yeah,
but
the
I
one I
don't
have
know.
is like
St. Louis
11 by
County
17.
GIS has a
You have 11
bunch
by
of tools,
17?
and they could probably
And
help
it
us
doesn't
out.
have Glen Echo?
Okay.
I don't,
Yeah, I don't think.
I think Norman, like the.
Well,
flip
if
is in
she's
color.
got 11 by 17,
But I don't know if
we
it
can
has Glen Echo.
downsize mine to the Glen Echo part and just cut and paste. And it probably would work.
Yeah, we'll look.
Yeah, we'll look.
So if we're gonna have an agreed on flyer, informational flyer in 30 days from now, we're gonna have to have some email back and forth. So what do you
Right.
think of this? What do you think of that?
Right.
Does somebody wanna take the lead on the initial design?
I can do that. Sam, can you send me electronically that speech that you made for the
Public hearing.
public hearing? And I will cut it down, make it, bumper stickers essentially, and, simplify the language. Send that out, just the language, not the layout yet, but just get the language down first. And then that way you can figure out, what kind of images. Does anybody other than me do desktop publishing?
I mean, you're just talking about publisher? Microsoft
Publisher, yeah, I can do publisher. I do it a lot, because it could be a publisher
Gianna makes a great
document. And overall size, I just want this thing to be 11 by 17 folded, so that's something.
On the old website, there was a Normandy map. And it had Glen Echo on it, Glen Echo Park, but it was white. And it was small. and it probably would fit in the brochure.
I have that somewhere, I physically have because
I
we
think I
used to
have
have it in a book.
I
like
have
a
copies
binder
of it
thing. Yeah,
from going door to door for you. And it's got Glen Echo Park, but it's white.
yeah, all
But
we
it's
need
got
to
the
do is
boundaries.
Okay.
Okay.
So when you say 11 by 17,
I
that's
mean, I'm not talking, I'm sorry, I want tabloid size,
8.5 by 11 fold.
yeah,
Okay, because otherwise, that was 4 pages
Yeah,
of
that's right.
material.
yeah,
and
it's
that would
40
be-
pages of
That would be a
material.
lot. But-
Well, but you know,
yeah.
if you're gonna have images on there.
Right, so you're talking 8.5 by 11, you fold it.
It should have FAQs. Uh, And a little bit of, can't remember the term for them, but they're little facts, you know, quick facts about, did you know that Glen Echo was founded this, it's on the historic registry. Did you know that Normandy is the oldest municipality? Or something like that. So all the little key facts that we have, and we can do that in call outs with little banners and so forth, so yeah,
Yeah, I think Glen Echo, 1901,
1906.
06,
2 years after the World's Fair.
the golf course.
I'm quite sure that map is around. I've seen that map.
Well, and I'll reach out to St. Louis County GIS and see if they can make us a map.
Because we do have a map in the proposal, in the application, that is a consolidated map of the two.
Yeah, which I
municipalities.
made that pretty crudely. We can probably get a nice one for that.
Yeah, and then if you could just get the wards drawn over that map,
Right.
you would accomplish what you need, and then we could pull out just that area for the fourth.
Steve is the person that does the map at Board of Election. Sam, his name is Steve at Board of Election, that does the mapping.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
I can
Yeah,
reach out to
that,
someone at the Board of Elections.
I mean, if that's what you're asking for, right?
Yeah,
But
we just,
Like, St. Louis County has an entire mapping department, and I think that's where we got those maps from over there.
Oh, so you're going
And-
to St. Louis County,
And
got it.
Yeah, they've got a lot of data, and they
Yeah.
usually are
What- yeah,
pretty
whatever's
helpful.
Convenient.
yeah, we need.
Okay, so we got Diggy on initial design, Sam's gonna take care of getting some maps. And as far as a timeline, we get back here in 30 days, we're gonna have something to agree on and say, okay, yeah, that looks good, let's go. At that meeting, we're gonna then, following that meeting, we're gonna recruit volunteers, so that when we meet in July and pass these materials out, we'll have an action plan for knocking on doors and I think it's probably, and somebody opined, I'm not sure you wanna do this. How early do you wanna start the education?
A month before the election, at least a month before the election.
So we're gonna have to start that before flyers are available.
Yeah, so
Okay, so-
what we're gonna have to do some messaging on the websites. Yeah, I think that even before things could be printed, you can always get a visual.
That's right, so when we come back in 1 month, and there's a brochure plan and bullet points where everybody is on the same page with the same message, from June, June, third week in June forward, we're out on the street. And that's 45 days before election day.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's a good.
Yeah, because and then we gotta hit them again at 3 weeks.
Right, and that'll be that's when we'll have printed
And then
material.
1 week before.
Yep,
So we wanna do,
Well, shouldn't we be able to have the printed material then?
I'm thinking we should have something, when we go talking to them, we should have something, I mean, just going up to people's houses, talking to them instead of having some information for them to look at.
do you think we'll have printed material before mid-July though?
Yeah, we have to.
But our
Once
friends
we-
on how
once
soon
we-
they
once we
can
put
get something
together-
printed.
Well, yeah, that really depends on how fast we can agree on a brochure.
I mean, I'm thinking, once we have the language and the images, it'll take me 16 hours.
Oh,
Yeah. But the language and the language comes first, and then whatever kind of images we want to use, you gotta look at.
And we may not necessarily need a meeting before we can agree on a brochure. It can be sent out and everybody,
Yeah, but
everybody says, looks great, you
I'm
know.
gonna need, to work with folks.
do that?
Huh?
Does that count as a meeting?
Oh.
You're not all
It's
agreeing in the same.
it sounds a little
email.
dicey to me. to be
You could
honest.
do it in a Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It-
We could
it-
do it in a.
We can do
Zoom.
a Zoom,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Or we could decide right here,
Right,
we could nominate someone to be like the approver for Normandy, and then,
I think that's a better idea.
like, if the council's okay, if the mayor's okay.
I'm happy to, unless
you can
Yolanda
speak
wants
for
to do it, or
the
Darren
Normandy.
wants to do it. Approve the final design.
Yeah, and I always need.
I'm happy to do it, I'm happy to do it.
And as Mark knows, I need proofreaders.
Yeah, I'll do it.
The other thing, Sam, so you started giving information based on an email that you responded to me. Then I made that flyer and then you did the presentation. All the facts are there. I mean,
Right.
yeah. The,
Right.
Right, and usually with a flyer, it's deciding what you don't include, prioritizing what is the most important,
Right.
because you only have so much space.
yeah.
So-
So
Well, I
we've
mean,
got
it's
the,
practical.
we've got the information. You just have to pull out what's most important.
Well, that's good. Now, do we need a tabloid kind of back and forth, 4 pages? Or do we need front and back, 8.5 by 11?
Needs to be readable. Like you said, there's a lot of people that need larger print.
Yeah, but I mean, let me see, let me look at it. Let me look at how much language there is, what the font size is.
Is there, first of all, is there a motion on the floor to give Councilwoman Campbell authority to approve the final informational brochure for the August 8 election?
I make a motion.
Is it August 8th?
Second.
8th or 6th? I'm sorry.
Second,
It's the eighth.
what?
The date.
There's a motion
Second and a second.
and a second.
Yeah, well,
I want to give Sam an opportunity to check that date.
It's the eighth.
Okay,
Say,
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ayes have it. Okay, so you can pull the trigger on that.
Does
And,
anybody else want to help with this?
I'd be happy to help with it.
I'll definitely.
I'm a big user of thesaurus. Oh, right, now, that word, wait, I used that word already, let's find a different
I
word,
mean,
right?
I'm right, so.
You're not gonna be able to, gonna be drunk.
But Sam, you'll send me that electronic copies of both Debbie's stuff and your stuff?
Yeah.
So that I can look at that, I'll come up with some language, I'll come up with some ideas for call-outs. Those little things with arrows or circles or stars or something on them.
I'll send you a flyer. See.
And then we'll see how much space we have left for pictures. Maps, pictures.
Yeah, I think that ward map.
Some identifying picture, your entranceway, and then maybe our fountain, something like that.
And the entranceway's not the prettiest thing. I got a couple of shots that are good.
The park.
The park.
The park, the
Teardrop
good,
would
the
be
good,
a good.
yeah, the
Well,
teardrop.
they're, it's not teardrop, they're park.
Ours
They're
is,
park.
ours is Valle Vista Park.
Yeah.
That wasn't my idea.
So hopefully, when we meet in 30 days, this brochure will be here,
Gotta be.
and we won't be saying, okay, let's send it to the printer.
So then we have to look at
And that's still, we'll have a brochure 45 days then,
production.
before election.
Perfect.
And we can get to work.
Right.
Yeah, because I can agree with Kev. You're not gonna come out your store, you gotta have something.
Have some kind
Because
of-
Yeah.
first thing they're gonna ask for, you got some information.
Right.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Do we need door hangers for people who aren't there?
Just leave the brochure.
Hey, rubber bands work good.
Rubber bands work well, those little plastic sleeves, I know we had some, they don't cost very much. There's a little plastic folder thing, clear, you can fold the piece up,
Oh, yeah, I get it, yeah.
and then I have to design how
And it's a door, and it looks better than
the layout's gonna be.
all crumbled up.
All
Yeah,
right, no, good.
and if I did it right, I could do, if we, we need to figure out how we're gonna fold it. But if I did it right, we could have the last half of one panel be the sample ballot.
Ooh, you got it.
Yeah, yeah.
May I add something? Now, Sam, remember we had our newsletter that we sent out? We couldn't afford to mail them out, so we had board members pass them out. And a lot of people didn't get those newsletters, and they complained about it. Now, we're getting ready to do this, not campaign, but informational. We're putting out for the merge. Now, how many copies will we have? How many can we afford to get? And how many people are going to get it? Only the voters?
Well, if we're gonna, that's something we should talk about. Are we talking about a full mailer to all Normandy households?
I don't think we can afford a full mailer to
Yeah,
everyone.
like you said, we couldn't
How many
afford
households do you have?
Just do the voter.
4,200,
No, about 900.
900?
Yeah.
But we're thinking of targeting the.
Got 22
voting
voting
Voter
units.
list.
So-
Yeah, because we don't want to make the mistake like we did last time, and not give people the information. So we don't want.
Well, let me ask a question. If we're appearing to become, should we, as a city, be targeting voters versus targeting the entire population of the city? If we're spending city dollars
You have to
to
look,
create this material?
you have to look at households.
Well, so there is a prohibition on using public funds to advocate for or against any particular measure. And right now, we haven't talked about doing that, right? I mean, the materials are going to be purely neutral, informational, and then what individuals say on their own time is a First Amendment issue, right? That being said, it starts to seem like even with neutral informational materials targeting specific people, right, kind of maybe those people are being targeted because they will be more or less likely to either be for or against a ballot measure. Does that make sense? I don't really like the targeting aspect.
Right.
Could
So,
we
yeah, I
mail-
think you have to mail, okay, so the first price mail at this point is what, 62 cents? How much is the stamp? So you got,
Yes, 62, you're right.
so you got 600 households
Right.
with, that's not that much money.
I think it's close to 9.
It's 9 times.
So, yeah, okay, all right, so.
We just don't want to make that same mistake we did with. the-
Well, whatever we decide to do, if we decide on a mass mailer, we could bring a resolution to pay for it, you know,
Yeah.
to allocate the funds.
$558.
Right, so,
4,000 plus mailing?
right. And with the,
Well-
in the newsletter,
$1,000 would be $620. If it's 1,000 that we're gonna mail, it'll be $620.
yeah, and some of the concern with the newsletter, one, it was a bigger document, and that was the cost of printing, and it was multiple issues we're talking about
All right.
at one
We
time.
can-
Well, we'll pull those numbers together and bring it to the June meeting with a resolution. And,
We'd still be going door to door, though. We'd have a
Oh, we
mailing,
would.
but then we'd be going
right,
door to door.
but so now if you're talking about that, now we're printing twice as many. But we can dang near print what we're talking about on our
I
printer
can get a
here.
deal at Kinko's. I got a board member who works at Wash U.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
if you pick up the post, before I promise this, I gotta see how much it's gonna cost. But, we'd probably get them, I don't think it's gonna cost us more, about 35 cents each, but I have to look at the cost of that, cause it's, we want 4 color, right? 2 sides. We want 4 color? Okay.
I mean,
Yeah, I would think.
Can't look cheap.
Yeah, it's got a, you
People
know,
like color.
yeah, people like color. It's gotta
Yeah,
be-
you like to look at the pictures.
And and it should be on coated stock because we're leaving it outside. so.
Right.
I mean, this is important that we serve our citizens, and they're gonna serve us, and we serve them. So we gotta get this information out the proper way.
All right,
Sounds good.
let's stay on schedule. I think we're where we need to be.
Okay, I'll see. You've got other whole stuff to talk about.
And you'll be getting emails from us with the bullet
Yeah,
points and
under
the
the-
power words that we find and such, so.
Yeah, and anybody got anything, ideas about, Kiana has all my email information, and you can send it to me there, either private or to the chair of Glen Echo. But that's it, thank you.
Well, thank you, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, man.
Just gotta get up first.
Step over there, dear.
No,
Nope.
no.
No, she's past that.
You got it.
I have to do a test today where I just stand up 10 times with my arms folded in front of me. I'm good. Really? Golfing?
No, so right, so the public funds advocate for support.
I'll be gone from the 31st to the 7th.
But there's actually a case that came down, maybe it's just nervous.
It sounds like Jim Sheriff.
Yeah.
All righty, good evening. Thank you for coming.
All right.
Moving on. All right, moving on. Next item on the agenda, if I can find the agenda.
Priorities.
Discussion of priorities and goals for 2023. I got good feedback on the request to have some ideas about where we're gonna start before we have this conversation. Rather than starting from scratch, everybody emailed me their list of what they'd like to see done. And there was a surprisingly consistent message. In addition to the priorities that Sam set out in his February message to us, though, what I heard consistently was there's, I won't say smaller, but they're not the big scale issues that we've discussed before, but top priority for the council, and it was very consistent, was managing rental properties and the problems that come with them. Specifically, two, crime and code compliance. That is the thing that the council has pressed the most with the responses that I received. Secondly, the second item, managing stray dogs. Third item is our streets issue. First was speed bumps and potholes. So it's those things that the residents see and the residents constantly complain about, rightfully so, are the things that are constantly in the council people's ear, and they want those addressed. Is that
Yeah.
a fair assessment
Yes,
from
yes, yes.
from what I've gotten?
Yes.
And aside from those issues, they were all over the map. Everybody had a different opinion about everything. I did want to start with our 1 to 3 month goals that Sam established in February. One was the development and implementation of a new employee safety manual. That is not complete. It's still a work in progress. Hopefully we can get a public works director to assist with that and get that to completion. Fiscal year 2022 audit, that's largely complete. There's nothing for us to do. The work that we needed to do to get that done has been done. It's well on its way. We're just waiting for its completion. Third item on that 1 to 3 month plan was a pay plan. We've been working on that. You've been working on that. We've had conversations in closed session about that. So not complete again, but a work in progress. And the fourth item, sale of real estate assets. We knocked that one out.
Yeah,
Paul.
we're moving.
That one, that's moving along. So 2 of those 4 goals, two are essentially completed and 2 are well on their way. So I think for that 1 to 3 months, and it's the target was to have these done before June. 2 of them are essentially completed and 2 of them are well on their way. Following that now, the 6 to 9 month takes us to our discussion today, which is our 2023 priorities. The capital improvement plan, which we haven't touched, it's a huge undertaking. There has to be a complete assessment of what we have and what kind of condition it's in. This is an incredible task. Zoning code updates. I will tell you, planning and zoning's been meeting monthly, and we're moving along. That I'm really happy with the progress that's going on with zoning code updates, and we'll continue to have those monthly meetings, and there's gonna be recommendations coming as soon as, the June meeting from planning and zoning.
As they get the work finished, Andy, St. Louis City is working on short-term rental ordinances. It's been all over the news
Yeah.
of that. So, I mean, and then Vicky's brought it up
Yeah.
too. So it's still on their agenda to
It
address.
is. We've got 4 items on the agenda. One is knocked out, one is very close to completion. The other 2 are, we address every one, every meeting.
Two are completed.
2 are complete?
Yeah, and those will actually be at the June meeting.
Yep.
The fence ordinance and the.
I forgot actually, fence ordinance, yeah. And the third is revision of the personnel policy manual. Sam, is there any work left to be done on that, or?
Well, looking at that, that's gonna be more of a piecemeal thing, I think, is probably a better way to approach it. With the pay plan, we'll, address the sections about paying compensation, and, there'll be some other, sections, like the marijuana use. That was a good chance to address some of the sections in the personnel manual, and there are some outstanding issues that we still need to.
So we incorporate those changes as we address other issues, and that's fair.
Yeah, and then there also will probably just be some ordinances that will be brought to council. as we
Okay.
go, so.
So, and obviously the purpose of this agenda item is to give staff, to give Sam some direction on what we would like to see done in the city. And again, managing rental properties is right at the top with the problems that it brings and the challenges it brings the city in dealing with it. People have property rights, and it's, I'll let Andy speak to that, but the bottom line is we have to come up with a plan. So in hearing that, Sam, managing rental properties, crime and code compliance, we've been talking about speed bumps and potholes and those issues that residents complain about routinely. And included in that was crime, and included in that is the stray dog issue, which is a safety issue. So, I mean, do you have any input on a time frame or what it takes to address those issues?
Well, when I hear speed bumps and potholes, that goes along very well with the capital improvement plan, because those are things that are popping up because lack of directions in how we invest in our streets, which is part of the capital improvement plan. And so the speed bumps are a fairly simple thing that we've been waiting for the CDBG money to come through for. But, you can fill potholes all you want, but eventually you have to replace the street. And having a 5-year capital improvement plan, an idea of what streets we're gonna fix and what year, and then moving on through the list, that's gonna, that's, at the policy level, that's how we're gonna address those issues. As far as what the council does is, how much money do we invest and when do we do it and where and on what street? On the managing rental properties, on the policy level, we've talked about this before, but it's gonna be very difficult and legally dubious to have a policy against rental properties specifically. But there is a lot of enforcement issues that we can, there's a lot of ordinances that we already do have that we can enforce better, and getting into the reasons why some of that is not being enforced at its best right now is lack of staff. We only have one code enforcement officer. We have an understaffed police department. It's the tools that the staff have, and we've addressed some of that with some software to help the code enforcement, and investments at the policy level. That's, I think, what the council can do to kind of invest in those things, as well as maybe adopt some targeted policy ordinances against on property maintenance.
But I will add to that, and again, what I'm hearing from the council is there's times where rather than fixing the problem, sometimes a Band-Aid works, just to quiet an issue. And again, I think we do need to address what we're hearing from residents, and there's some frustration about code compliance. And if it's, I need this much money to hire another code compliance officer, or whatever the answer might be, I think we need to put it on the plate and come up with an answer. Because people want to see something in regards to this. And the sooner code compliance is more strictly enforced, the less problems you're gonna have enforcing it. It's
I'm sorry.
snowballs.
I wasn't able to send in any requests or anything, but the capital improvement, does that involve Prop P money?
When Prop P was passed, from my understanding, I was not a St. Louis County resident at the time, but it's my understanding you can either use that for public safety or for streets.
Right.
We pretty much just use it for public safety.
Where are we as far as the fundings? How much do we have in Prop P money at this time?
Well, the Prop P money is used every year for public, in the public
Yeah, all
safety
that
budget.
goes to,
I know, safety and,
But as far as what we have for streets, we do have, I think it's over $200,000 right now in our street improvement fund,
right,
which is funded through the road and bridge tax, property tax. And in addition to that, we have our, our annual capital improvement tax. I think one thing that the council's gonna have to decide on, and I think once we have the data about the capital improvement plan and really seeing what our needs are, looking more than 1 year out, having a little bit longer view, is we're gonna have to identify which revenue streams we're gonna restrict ourselves to make sure that we have enough money every year to stay on top of our capital investments. Because right now, that road and bridge tax is really not enough to really keep up with things. It's not that much money. It's only like, I think it's only like 20,000 a year. So it's
it wasn't 60?
I don't have the budget in front of me, but.
Well, Sam and I had, although it was a very brief discussion today, about maybe reorganizing some of these taxes, and it would have to go to the ballot box, but some of these restricted funds, do we need as much money in those restricted funds as we're getting, or would we be better served moving those in a different direction to capital improvement specifically? But
Can we do
that
that?
conversation is happening.
Can we go back to the rentals
Yes.
and the ordinances? Would it be like beneficial, kind of like what we did with the concrete, to have like 3 or 4 council people like get together to look at the ordinances for like not only our city, but then also to like references from other cities, and then like come up with recommendations, like a subcommittee?
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds like you're talking about a subcommittee, and I would be happy to help, attend those meetings and talk about it, but I don't think that's a bad idea. But- Yeah, and I think it will allow for more conversations about it, as opposed to just what we have at our regular meetings, which sometimes get bogged down with business.
Well, we've had an offer from Sam to help facilitate that. We need to keep that as far as a membership from the council to 3 people. Are there 3 volunteers that would be interested in serving on a subcommittee to address the problems associated with the rental properties?
I'll be one. I'll be one.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
No, we've got 2 people that wanna, I'm sorry?
what do you have? Tom?
no?
Tom, you know, we're a 2-person.
Well,
Sure.
Sure.
as a matter of procedure, I think you would make a motion to form the subcommittee, and then.
Y'all kind of got, I got
and I think you
I'm
would
seeing
make
if
a
there's
motion.
interest to do it.
Yeah.
We'll go there.
Okay.
So we've got 2 people willing to serve, which, and Sam. I'm sorry?
2 people is a committee.
All right. So is there a motion to create a subcommittee to address the issue of rental properties, code compliance and crime.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, we've got 2 volunteers.
Do you realize David is on Zoom?
Oh, I haven't heard from David. Maybe, is he muted?
He's got some issues with audio.
Yes, I'm muted.
Oh, okay, okay.
David,
So-
would you be interested in being on that subcommittee?
No, I think that would be a conflict of interest for me.
Okay.
So we're, I think, okay. We've got 2 interested.
I could do it too. Put me down.
All right, we've got a 3rd volunteer.
Tony, you don't want to do it?
Yeah, that's it.
Tony said it about 3 times.
Oh, I didn't hear you, Tony, I'm sorry.
No,
You're only right next to me. Right? Get on the other side where I can hear you.
He's facing his daddy.
If Tony does it, that's the 3 then.
Yep,
Oh, can you?
I'm indifferent. One of you guys, all right.
Tony, could there be one more than one?
Aye.
They're represented different ways.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to appoint I'm going to appoint Karen Cleveland, Yolanda Campbell, and Tony Evans to the subcommittee to address rental properties. I'm looking for a motion to approve those appointments.
I make a motion.
No? I'm sorry?
Who was the first?
Oh, I thought I heard.
I said I make a
Oh,
motion.
Steve second.
I second it.
Rick is first.
Rick is first.
Rick was first.
You're all on track. Keep
Okay, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, I'll leave it to you 3 to get together and take care of that.
So you're gonna keep on file the input you got as far as priorities that we all gave?
Well, I think that was the top one, and we've addressed
Yeah.
how, we don't know what we're going to do with that, but we created a subcommittee to address the
No,
issue.
I'm talking about the priorities listing that we mailed to you. That
Okay.
to have that on file so we can revisit it as
Okay.
we finish work, you know?
Yeah, and I think, and I'll open the floor to you. Are we deviating from the plan that was looked at in September? The priorities that Sam established for the city that he had, and adding in addition to that, the rental properties and issue with our streets.
And the dog.
Yeah, and the stray dogs, those were the 3. Managing rental properties, stray dogs, and issues with the streets.
That's enough to work on.
That's plenty to work on.
And I did address the other 2, I don't think I really talked about stray dogs. That is something we've talked about, I think Normandy can do things to help, and we can definitely issue citations to people that are repeat offenders, but that is St. Louis County Animal Control, and it's a little bit out of the scope of what Normandy's does usually, and of course, the council can expand that scope. But, we can't pick up dogs and impound dogs. On occasion, we've held a dog or 2 in our jail cell, but it's really not ideal.
No, I agree that we can't impound dogs, but the problem exists just the same. And we can
Yeah.
have brainstorm about how to address it, whether it's through some other resource other than Normandy. Steve, please.
So Sam, the county is picking them up now? Because there was a time they said they weren't gonna pick any more up.
Yeah, I've
Actually,
heard of a
there
few
are.
cases.
There was a really good mayor's meeting at, down in Pine Lawn. And a gal from the department was there, and she was unaware of the issue that they weren't picking up. So I think that has largely been resolved.
If they are, can you text everyone that phone number so that we can call them if we
Sure.
see a stray? Because I was under the understanding they still didn't do it, even though I see the truck twice, I think.
I think they changed their services, but about 6 months ago, they received more monies, which may have reactivated them. And that's as far as I've checked on it,
If I may.
Please.
Yes, sir.
I do just want to say, as the municipal prosecutor, I have seen an uptick in tickets for violations of the pit bull ordinance, and I've seen an uptick in high-speed tickets. So I do think your concerns are being heard. And so, obviously, there's still issues that need to be solved, but I think enforcement is on the up. So,
Thank you.
Can I-
Please, go ahead.
Also, in connection with the St. Louis County Animal Control, the APA has also been offering assistance to St. Louis County Animal Control as far as enforcement goes.
And
They
you
don't have
know,
enough bodies to get out there.
yeah, I was gonna speak on that because when you call St. Louis County, they refer you to the APA.
APA.
So that's what's going on.
Yes, yeah.
You got something to say too, Kevin?
Go ahead.
And then Humane Society, if you have to make an appointment and you have to bring in the dog, and if they're full, they just don't address it.
Yeah, that's
Those are
not,
the three agencies that.
That's the partnership.
Well,
Kevin, what did you say? Your voice was.
The partnership with St. Louis County Animal Control is the APA, so that's kind of what's boosting a lot of their response now. Probably the reason why you're seeing that response.
Kevin?
Okay, so I have a problem like with a neighbor that has a dog that continues to get loose. And it's right on Bermuda. And I know personally that the dog's got it loose 3 times. I know
And that's
he
not-
bit
it's
somebody. He
right?
bit somebody about 2 years ago. He's gotten loose. One of my neighbors, he know the dog whispering things, so he was able to control him. This just happened this year, a couple of months ago. And then I think about a month ago, I just so happened to get off early that day, and I got a call from a neighbor across the street. She got a call saying the dog was loose, and watch it when she come home. So she called me, and I started rattling around the neighborhood, and the dog was loose. Fortunately, the nephew lived on the block, the block on your street, where he was looking at the dog like under the tree, like he was scared of him, and that's the nephew. But he called the uncle, and he said the uncle's on his way. I said, that dog loose? He said, yes. I'm like, yeah, that's a vicious dog. He's, and he cleaned it up. I said, well, it's bit somebody before. So I'm afraid that that dog is gonna get loose one time. He bite one of them kids, cause it's right down the street from the bus stop.
Yeah, he's a vicious dog.
And he's right on Bermuda. And so you have people walking, running, exercising.
Well,
And I have a big problem with
I
that.
had just compiled this list and advised Chief Sanders that we needed to have a conversation. Today, I didn't have that conversation because everybody had a full day. But Sam and I and Rick and Chief are all gonna sit down and go over these priorities also. And this is, like I say, I just did get around today to compiling the
But
input
what
that I
can be
was
done
given.
about that particular house?
That particular house,
Yes.
send Sam an address and
Okay.
Well, and
our police can ticket them, Rick can ticket them. We can't pick up the
I
dog.
at least wanna,
Yeah.
at least give them a warning that that
Yeah.
dog should not get loose, should
Yeah,
never,
the
shouldn't get
dog.
loose again.
The dog is on what they call a line leash, where you tie the leash on to the dog and then you tie one end of the rope to one tree to another, and it can just run back and forth.
Yeah.
And he keeps getting out.
And eventually,
Yeah.
evidently, he's popping because it's a big dog, it's
Yeah.
big German
He's
Shepherd. And it's a big dog.
And I've called numerous times about the dog, so.
well, I just want to say on that, that's something that animal control can build a case, and they track that kind of stuff. Like, this dog has gotten out 3 times in the past month. It's time for impoundment. And it's something that they're more properly trained to do than our staff. We can issue tickets, we can
Right.
issue warnings. If there's an immediate danger, the police, it's not pretty, but, the police can come and
That's what we
hopefully
can need
resolve the
now,
situation.
Right.
is
But-
a ticket or even just a warning.
But as far as like solving the issue, usually animal control,
Yeah.
they have the animal control officers, and they'll come back to the house and check up, and if they catch the dog, 3 times, they'll take the dog. And that's what I mean. They're better, one,
They've got the legal barrier.
we do have, dogs, our codes and ordinances against dogs at large, and more broadly, as I say, we enforce our ordinances, but they have a very specific direct mission as animal control to deal with those types of
Yeah,
issues.
they do, Sam, but, it's like cross street from me, you know, I've called the APA, the animal control, they've been out numerous times, and one of the drivers even said we should take the dog, but we don't have the room,
Right.
Well, let me ask this.
and the dog's still there.
I'm not confident we're gonna solve the
No,
issue,
no.
but is the council, does the council agree that we have heard your concerns and priorities and that they're in the order that they need to be addressed?
Yes.
But can I,
Yes, please.
and this is for Sam. Have you ever driven around Ward 1 just to look at everything that Steve and I see all the time? Have you, like,
I do take drives.
okay, I didn't know if you did or not, so, okay.
It's not, I won't say it's every week, well, it has been with Public Works, but yes, I do drive around the neighborhoods every once in a while.
Okay,
And yes, I do see what you're talking about.
okay. Thank you.
All right. We are hitting it, man, right on time.
Let's keep hitting it.
All right, at this time, I would like a motion to go into closed session to discuss a personnel issue.
So move.
There's a
Second.
motion, is there a second? Roll call vote, please.
4.
Hang on for the vote, hang on for the vote. We need a roll call vote.
Oh, we're not going nowhere.
Okay, I was just.
She like, wait a minute.
Councilwoman Cleveland.
Yes.
Okay, Councilman Saxon.
Yes.
Councilman Jackson.
Yes.
Councilman Evans.
Yes.
Councilman Nelson.
Yes.
Councilman Fong.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosso.
Yes.
Councilwoman Campbell.
All right, ayes have it. Now, folks, we've been in session an hour and 45 minutes. Let's take a 5-minute break, no more than that, please, and we'll meet in the council chamber.
It's 7:41.
Not being here for a while.
Ah,
Yeah, that dog issue, man.
it's bad.
After he told me that, I kept my whole hopes feeling like that.
Well, the time he bit me was 2 years
Yeah.
ago. But then he just got out on my neighbor's Woodrow about 2 nights. That's right, when I got in.
Yeah, that's what's saying. Somebody's gonna pop that.
There's two individuals in particular that chase kids,
Oh,
and there's parents that told me that if they bite those, they're gonna.
I wouldn't wait for the bite.
But your puppy is
I'm
twice
trying to
as
solve
big.
Well,
that.
and it is a problem. Some of the people shoot firearms in the neighborhood.